tonight. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, is here tonight for the interview. I'm very much looking forward to that. Do you know Greta Van Susteren? Greta Van Susteren from Fox News? She's actually not at Fox anymore, which I think is too bad. I miss Greta. I miss her being on TV. And I'm not being sarcastic. I know everybody thinks we have a terrible rivalry with Fox. I really do miss Greta. And I ended up thinking about her in today's news because this was one of my all-time favorite Greta moments from when she was on Fox.
I know that at least 10 ISIS fighters have been caught coming across the Mexican border in Texas. There's nobody talking about it. Because I've asked the Border Patrol, Greta.
And the Border Patrol, they just let ISIS members come across the border?
No, they caught them at the border. Therefore, we know that ISIS is coming across the border. And if they catch 5 or 10 of them, then you know there's going to be dozens more that did not get caught.
Greta's like, who the what now? Hold right, what? How do you know that? The Border Patrol just let 10 ISIS fighters come? What are you talking? Really? The guy blowing Greta's mind with that insanity is a sitting congressman from California who insisted that the United States had picked up a whole slew of ISIS fighters on the border. He picked up a whole bunch of them, 5 of them, or like 10 of them, or maybe it was more than 10 of them. There was a lot. It was a ton. And it was weird to just have that dropped into a normal interview on Fox News on like a Tuesday or whatever, right? You would think that would be the kind of thing that we would hear about as a country. I mean, if the United States government picked up 10 ISIS fighters who were invading, right, who were crossing over the border into the United States, and we had these fighters in custody, there would be a lot of attention to that, right? There'd be a lot of questions raised, like, where are we holding them? Are they being held just in some, local facility at the border? Are they being moved to a high-security U.S. prison? Are there some people in politics who want them moved offshore to Guantanamo? These are ISIS fighters. Are they going to be enemy combatants and they need to be held in our offshore prison? I mean, 10 ISIS fighters picked up in the United States while entering this country? Are they being interrogated? Do they get their Miranda rights? Are they being charged? Is this being done in a civilian court? When is President Obama going to make a statement about this? 10 ISIS fighters caught, picked up, coming into the U.S., apprehended at the border. That would be really big news. Big enough news that you just wouldn't expect it would be announced offhandedly in a parenthetical phrase by a congressman you've never seen before. A few segments into Greta's show on one night. You wouldn't think that's how you'd hear about it. At the time when he said that on Fox, and Greta had that perfect reaction to him, we asked the congressman about what it was he meant. Basically following up on Greta's point. What are you talking about? Where are you getting this from? Right, this seems like a big deal. How come nobody else has this information? The congressman responded to us at the time by sending us a link to this hilarious misspelled blog post. He said this was his news source about all the ISIS fighters that had been captured on the U.S. border. When we pushed back at the congressman's office about that and said, this is just a hilarious misspelled blog post, the congressman came back to us again and said we should rest assured that the information was rock solid. The congressman's office told us that he got this information from, quote, a high-level source, quote, someone we have come to know and trust over the years. Oh, really? Obviously, we went back with, okay, tell us more. This is a big deal thing you're reporting. Can we try to corroborate your source? Will your source speak to us? Ultimately, the congressman's office we felt maybe they were frustrated with us. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them. But they ended our conversation by saying that we should stop asking them about these matters. The congressman would make another public statement on this thing that he had announced. He would release more information about this blockbuster news very soon, and his new information, his new public statement would prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this thing really did happen on the border. And that was the last we heard from him on it. That was more than 2 years ago now. And we're still waiting for his follow-up statement that will prove this incredible news that he broke on Greta's show. I mean, needless to say, it does not appear that California Congressman Duncan Hunter was right about this bombshell that he dropped on Fox News. people who supposedly had all these ISIS fighters in custody, they did not corroborate his story. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement at the time saying, despite him, quoting his sources in the Border Patrol, the Department of Homeland Security released a statement saying that the congressman's assertions were categorically false. And if there were any justice in the world, people who humiliate themselves getting caught in that kind of a lie, they would have to either climb down, admit they were wrong, apologize, maybe explain why it happened, or if they refused to do that, they would disappear, right? They would disappear from public life, right? Because of the sheer weight of the shame they had brought upon themselves with this lie that they told and they got caught for. But it's not a just world. It's the real world that we are in. And so neither of those things ever happened. Duncan Hunter never apologized for this or explained any of it. And he's still a congressman. He was, in fact, one of the earliest and most enthusiastic supporters in Congress of the presidential candidacy of Donald Trump. So with that qualification, who knows? Duncan Hunter may yet get himself an appointment to the Supreme Court. I don't want to speak too soon. But being caught out as kind of a kook on an important subject like this, I think it does have consequences, even if you have friends in powerful places. I mean, Duncan Hunter is basically known now as this kind of half-cocked California congressman who famously vaped in a congressional hearing. He's still indelibly the guy who made up totally wild nonsense about ISIS on TV to the point where one Fox News host was like, dude, wait, what? And now, in addition to that, Duncan Hunter has an ethics thing. He apparently used campaign donations to put up a new garage door on his house, and to pay his utility bills, and to pay his dentist, and to pay a surf shop, and to buy groceries and clothes, and to pay for private school tuition for his kids, and to take family trips to Italy and to Hawaii. He even used campaign donations to pay the bill at a nail salon. But that all led to ethics complaints against him, and those ethics complaints led to him paying back tens of thousands of dollars to his campaign. These were campaign donations he had used for personal family expenses. Had to pay back tens of thousands. And those repayments have also proven awkward for him, because apparently the way he was able to very recently pay back his campaign $49,000 for money that he spent on himself and his family instead of his campaign. Apparently the way he was able to make that big recent repayment to his campaign was that he borrowed that much money off a family friend who is a convicted murderer. And so now the House Ethics Committee has opened a new inquiry into our old friend Congressman Hunter. So he's like, a sitting member of Congress, but he's like kind of out on the edge, right? Not a towering figure in our public discourse. This is a guy who, frankly, inherited his safe congressional seat from his dad. He has the same name as his dad, so he almost got to run as an incumbent if you didn't notice the junior. He's in trouble of a kind of embarrassing kind now. He has a reputation as being a little kooky. And it turns out we probably should have seen all that coming, right? When the great Greta Van Susteren was like, dude, whoop, over his fantasy about the border, we probably should have seen it coming.
I know that at least 10 ISIS fighters have been caught coming across the Mexican border in Texas. There's nobody talking about it.
How do you know that? How do you know that? We now know what he was saying there is nuts. But here's the thing in tonight's news. What he is a particular variety of nut in the news that is about to get way, 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 way more powerful. Unchecked power. And that story is next.